my boy? What have you done to my boy?
All things just keep getting better.
Hey my dudes, welcome to the channel. Today we're looking at probably the first part of, I'd say, a two-parter on a trio of fairly similar steels. So there's a steel called AEBL, there's a steel called Nitro V, and there's a steel called 14C28N. And each of those steels is sort of a slight incremental, you could say, improvement or at least differentiation of the other. So the first and most basic steel being AEBL, very similar to, say, a 13C26 style sandvik steel, so the type of stainless that Mora uses on a lot of their basic Scandi bushcraft knives. So AEBL is quite similar to that. It's described as a very pure steel with relatively simple composition, sort of a mid-carbon stainless composition. And then adding on to that, you've got 14C28N, which adds a bit of nitrogen to that mix. And then adding on to that, you've got Nitro V, which adds a little bit of vanadium as well. All very small incremental additions. So I'll put a chart up on the screen now showing you the three and showing you that the bars are pretty telling of the variances. You can see they're all pretty similar. So what I've got on me today is a knife in 14C28N, the Real Steel Metamorph G5. And I've got a knife in Nitro V, which is the Mass Drop Perpetua. I've put a 17-degree mirror polished edge on both. Now, the edges are the same, the geometries behind are not. I'm relatively certain that this test basically just affects the very cutting edge in terms of what is degraded. And what I'm going to do first, I'm going to show you the edges after they've been sharpened to a 0.1 micron finish, or at least it's the best I can do it, on the microscope. So here they are. As you can see, it's certainly not a shiny mirror when you look at it under a scope. The mirror, for me, I can get it pretty good on a shirt, catching good reflections. Show some close-ups of that perhaps. And yeah, whenever you look at anything super close, you see all those little micro scratches that you haven't been able to buff out. Plain as day. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. We're mainly looking at how crisp the line is where the edge ends, though. Really, that's what we're going to be measuring here. Once that no longer sliced as a held sheet of paper. So right now, I'm sitting on it. Right now, both of these knives are super duper sharp. They effortlessly glide through a held sheet of paper. And that's kind of my test for the absolute, apex sharpness. Once that gives in, you generally find that the edge kind of starts to build up little pills of paper on it, all that sort of stuff, and it no longer makes a nice clean cut, starts to get it raggedy, and then eventually it starts to kind of just hit and tear off in the paper. So we're going to cut twisted sisal rope with both knives with about the same amount of blade, so usually about 1.5 inches of blade, until they're no longer sliced paper, and then we're going to check in and see how they look at the end. So it'll be interesting to see what the differences are between these. In terms of the Rockwells, I believe this is at 59, and this is given as 57 to 59, so don't know. We will see. Again, lots of variables that I can't account for in these tests. I'll use this opportunity to say, go and check out knifesteelnerds.com. Laren bought a Catra machine and serviced it and is doing Catra testing with blanks made to an exact spec by Triple B Handmade. So that is data you can pretty much take to the bank, in my opinion. So this is just more, I find it shows like a basic link to everyday use and how long your edge will last compared to another knife in terms of just cutting a basic abrasive material. So I don't know, there's probably room for both tests, and there's probably room for even more too. So anyway, let's get into it. We'll start with Nitro V first. so 250, and as I sort of said, when you look at it up close, you can sort of see where, so sort of the paper starts to stick into little bits that get sort of flattened off as you cut. There we are. Alrighty, moving on to 14C28. There's 250 cuts on the Nitro. Alright, so under the microscope, and I reckon it'd be even better if I had a more high magnify scope, but I think I can see where the little, it just looks like a tiny little chip taken out, and it's just slightly more rough along the surface I was cutting with. So just these little strands of rope, combined possibly with the cutting board, has gradually just kind of abraded those edges to the point where they lose enough to be visible to, you know, a microscope or a naked eye with a microscope, and it's a pretty low magnification microscope, so it's just getting a good look. It's sort of the general structure of the edge. So why would this one cut 50 times less than this one? All sorts of reasons. With steels this similar, you could almost put a lot of it down to just this environment and me not being a machine, as well as possibly the addition of vanadium. Possibly the heat treatments. I mean, they're about similar, I think, so not a huge difference there, but really, thinking of Nitro V, this is a Alex Strawn fixed bladed Nitro V, and this with his factory edge, which was also about 17, cut 350 times, so 100 times more than this one here, but then the Rockwell of this one is at 61 solid, and this is between 57 and 59, so I find with abrasiveness cutting, high Rockwell does generally make a fair difference. So a high Rockwell knife will generally cut a bit better against rope than a lower Rockwell knife, lower hardness knife. So that's something to consider as well. But yeah, Nitro V is a bit of a darling steel at the moment. It really is. It's got sort of it's a bit trendy. It's a bit sort of the addition of nitrogen into steels, which companies are sort of trying to push at the moment. And it does seem to have some effect both on stainlessness and on edge retention. That being said, the Nitro V on this Master Perpetua, and I'll get out my other camera here and show you, has actually tarnished just a little bit. You can see there. And this is just through daily use. So that side's fine, but this side here, just cutting stuff, not remembering to wipe it down perhaps every single time, has sort of spotted a little bit on the blade surface there, but these sort of bead blasted finishes like this also they really open up those surface grains to rust. So anyway, but both of these are fine stainless steels, and both of these, in fact, especially 14C28, are really good budget entry steels, like especially given that some companies are still selling VG10 for 3 times the price. 14C28N, Sandvik obviously got a good deal with the Chinese makers. They send bucket loads of it over there to Real Steel, to Rake, to make these pretty good, pretty decent edge retaining little budget knives. So and Nitro V, ABL darlings of the custom knife industry, they must be relatively adequately priced and get the right performance and storage and ease of use ratios that make them quite popular. So both fine steels, both excellent steels to have in a pocket knife, providing you haven't been promised that it's going to hold an edge like the Dickens, or providing you maybe haven't paid $400 or something for it. Cool. That's the video. So I've got some ABL and a bit more Nitro V on the way from Chris. So once that gets here, the post is just being very slow for obvious reasons at this point in history anyway. So once that's here, we'll follow it up with another bit of a look. So thanks for watching, my friends. I'll see you next time in the Knife Lab.